Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Huck with the Agent of Change platform and also the Ed Huck team with Keller Williams. And I have a special guest here today, my friend Jonathan Wright from Russell Real Estate. Jonathan is joining me. I've been asking him if he would please come and talk to me a little bit about his real estate journey. He's been an agent for almost 6 years in October, and he's just got an awesome business. And I want to share with you just all of the things that he's shared with me, because I think it'll be really helpful for you guys. So Jonathan, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the business that you're running today?
For sure. So, like you said, I started in October of 2017. I came from another sales position. I used to sell park equipment. Playgrounds were like our bread and butter. So there was a decent skill set that I came to this with. But in that amount of time, that skill set allowed me to start pretty quickly. I was Rookie of the Year at Russell, as well as Lorraine County Association of Realtors in 2018. And from them have continuously grown and have kind of found this sweet spot here in the last couple of years, averaging between $7 and $8 million in sales.
That's awesome. So tell me about your family. So you have an awesome family and you're very active in the community. Can you tell us about that too?
Absolutely. So I have a wife and two daughters, and we are very active. We love traveling. We love playing sports. I've been involved in coaching my girls since they were teeny tiny. I've pretty much coached them their whole lives. I'm not sure how much they like that, but they've been stuck with me this whole time. Outside of family, you mentioned community involvement. So like I said, I've been coaching youth athletics. I now am the assistant varsity soccer coach for the girls team at Brookside. I chair the park board for the city of Sheffield Lake. And for a hobby, I like to train jujitsu, and been doing that for about almost 4 years as well.
Wow.
And that's pretty much my life in a nutshell.
That's awesome. So what made you get into real estate then?
What made me get into real estate was when I was in my last position and I had finally started to earn enough income where I had some extra that I thought, what do I do with this? And I literally Googled how to make your money work for you, because I'd heard rich people say that before. And it takes you to investment sites, and the first thing it took you to is the stock market, and that's like learning a different language, which I didn't want to do. So I kept researching, and then I found real estate investment, and it actually made sense to me, and I could sink my teeth into it. So I began to study that, and concurrently, I kind of realized that last company I was with was not a long-term solution for me for other reasons, and that I was going to need to be exiting that company and that industry. And so with having made the decision that real estate investment was going to be a long-term strategy for growing wealth for myself and my family, getting into real estate sales just seemed to make perfect sense.
Well, so when you started in 2017, you said, so what was the market like when you got your license?
It was, it was pretty balanced. In hindsight, it was a pretty balanced market. You would get a listing, it would typically sell if it was a decent house within, 3 to 6 weeks. There was plenty of negotiating, plenty of mutual releases that didn't work out. The buyers had some leverage. They had the ability to really negotiate hard against sellers, but at the same time, your listings were still selling. There was not a lot of extra inventory that just sat on the market for a long time. I think the longest a listing ever sat for me in that first full year was maybe 3 months. So it was much more balanced than it is today. And it was actually quite nice, in hindsight, for both buyers and sellers, because everyone was able to achieve their goals.
So how did you become Rookie of the Year in your first year? Like, what things did you do to get to that point?
So in that first year, I think my story may differ from others in just the sense of I came with a skill set. You know, selling the park equipment was a consultative sales position. And some of the things that I learned doing that were, you know, if a lead comes in and it's warm but not ready, I'd never let go. I continue to communicate with that lead over time. It could take 2 months, 6 months, 18 months before that lead is ready to buy, but
Right.
I never lost sight of them or track of them. Um, I worked the desk at the office, taking the calls all the time. Back then, I would call FSBOs hard. I would call expireds hard. Um, while I didn't get a lot of listings or buyers coming that way, I got enough to where it was meaningful. It definitely helped
Mhm.
with my production.
Mhm.
And so just a lot of those, what we would consider, you know, real estate sales fundamentals, right? Sitting the open houses, doing all that kind of stuff, being busy on the phone, making sure that you're reaching out and talking to people and making connections. I
Mhm.
saw a lot of industry connections, right? I didn't wait for people to introduce me to loan officers. I never really did networking events. I just went and sought these people. I would talk to folks who I knew in the industry and trusted already about
Mhm.
who some of their favorites were. And I would seek these meetings out. And I still do that today. I still try to continuously build my network of professionals.
Mhm.
And so eventually some of those folks would send me, you know, some deals, but also, even though my territory in park equipment sales was the entire northern part of Ohio, which I'm not selling real estate in all of northern Ohio, I had some local connections that brought me sales early on as well. So
That's great.
it really started off with real estate sales fundamentals plus
Mhm.
working my network.
And so I mean, this is a really important factor. And this is something that when people come to me, especially in today's market, and talk about, I want to get into real estate and how can I be successful? Um, One of the things that I preach is that you need to have at least 100 to 200 people in your database that you could call who would say, "Hey, Jonathan, good to hear from you." Do you think that you had that when you started and that was a reason why you were able to kind of jump in, or did you have to like build up to that point?
So yes, I think that's a two-parter. I did have
Yeah.
a database that I started working immediately. Although at that time I didn't realize not only is it important, it is if you want, I truly believe that if you want to succeed in real estate and not just continuously be grinding and grinding and grinding, that database is the absolute key to your success and your work-life balance. And so I did work that database, but it grew over the years and has evolved to where that database is my entire business. I no longer chase the FSBOs or expireds. I don't buy leads. I don't do any of that stuff. I just work through those people who are in my database and my network.
So you are number one, and this seems kind of silly, but you have a database, which I'm telling you, there are massive mega teams who don't even keep a great database, which just boggles my mind. And I know you've met Ed, my husband, who's like database king of the world. I mean, that is the only thing that he will preach. um, the statistics, the numbers, the conversion ratios. It's so important to have that database. So not only did you have one, so you're working, what system are you using? Is it with Russell Real Estate or is it a different system, or how are you keeping your database?
Yeah, Russell provides a CRM system for us. It's called KV Core. I know that KV Core works with other brokerages as well, but they provide that for us. So I use the CRM to help me keep track. Well, I put everybody in there, but I use it to help me keep track of future contact points. And then I keep my own separate spreadsheet of past clients. And
Okay.
I communicate differently with both of those. So those are the two separate things that I do. I have my own spreadsheet that I put together and review.
Mhm.
And that's kind of an everyday, well, I guess they're both an everyday thing. And then I use the CRM as well to keep notes. And, if I am working a lead and they're not ready and I'm on the phone with them, and I'm in a sense interviewing them, and I'm asking them the questions to learn about them, their family, and their goals, and all that kind of stuff. I'm keeping the notes in the CRM, and then I keep track of established relationships, past clients, as well as vendors, you know, partners that I have in the industry and title, lending, inspectors, all that kind of stuff. I have them set up in a separate database, Google Sheets. And so I use those two programs to keep
Awesome.
track of my database.
And whatever works. And that's what I say. So there are so many different databases, CRMs, different systems, whatever works. The main point is that you created your database and then you said you continuously added to it and you continuously work it on a daily basis. And that is how you have built an $8 million real estate business. And that's how you sustain it day in and day
Yes.
out, correct? And so what kinds of like, how do you schedule that into your day first off?
So I actually time block on Friday to make sure that I am going to reach out to people whom I haven't spoken to in a while. There's a good chunk of my database that I know on a personal level, and we communicate with frequency anyway. So I don't really have to put a whole lot of effort into communicating with them because it happens naturally. The flow happens naturally.
Yeah.
For those that it does not, I am time blocking, and that's what I use that Google Sheets spreadsheet for. Is I make sure that I have a date. I have one column that has a date, the last time I sent them a little personal letter or a note, and then there's one column the last time I gave them a phone call. So I go into that spreadsheet and I just review it every day and figure out who I haven't talked to in a while and who I need to reach out to pretty soon.
That's awesome. And so he used the magic word. Two of my favorite words of all time you've said out loud, and that's why we're friends. That's why I like you, is because you said database and time blocking. And I will say that that's the reason that we're talking, because I really wanted to talk to Jonathan mostly, not only how did he in a short, 5, almost 6 years, create a consistent business where he sells about $8 million a year, which is where he wants to be. That's his sweet spot. He said, that's where, you feel good. You're making the money you'd want to make. You're doing the things that help you achieve your goal, which is awesome, because at some point that's all of our own choice, right? We get to choose where we want to be. We can choose to be at 3 million, 5 million, 8 million, or we can choose to grow every single year and see what happens. So there's nothing saying you have to do a certain amount or little or less or anything. Anyway, I'm on a tangent, but the biggest thing is that he's gotten to that point. Now, what I really wanted to talk to you about is, how did you choose that sweet spot? And how are you doing that amount of business, but also having a balance in your life? Because I know you do. Can you explain how that has evolved, how you got there, and what does that look like for folks?
Okay, so essentially how I got there, you work and continuously try to build, and then you reach this point where you're creating some business is being referred to you. And I reached a point where I kind of realized it's between that $7 and $8 million that takes up the right amount of time for me to, again, like you said, make a living that allows my family to live comfortably and allows me to pursue the goals that I have, but also stay active with the other things that I have going on in my life. And once I sort of reached that point, I've always had these other things that I stay active in. And, Julie, I got to be honest, I'm pretty selfish with my time. You kind of have to be if you really want to have that work-life balance. You can't just give it away willy-nilly to anybody that gives you a call. I really try to reach out to people on my own terms. It's not always possible, but I'm selfish with my time. And so I am really focused on the best use of it so that I maintain that balance. And when I reach a certain point, I'd say 3 years ago, where, okay, now enough business is coming in that I'm struggling to maintain balance, I just referred it out to someone else and let them work it and take the little referral fee and be very happy with that. So I would refer that out, specifically buyers.
Mhm.
And you know, that's really it. And so now I've reached this place. And again, I don't buy leads and I don't pursue anything except for my database. They
Mhm.
really have fed me every bit of my business for the past 3 years. And they so that's really it. I just sort of I found this sweet spot where here's all that I want to work. And now being 5 to 6 years in, how much time it's going to take to work buyers, sellers, etc. So once it starts getting too heavy, I just refer the extra work out that I don't want to do because it's going to interfere with my time.
Which is smart because you still, like you said, you'll still get a referral fee. And if you do it in the right way, which I'm sure that you do, they will still continue to stay in your circle, in your world. And if
Mhm.
they don't, they don't, right? At some point, if they move on and just continue to work with that other agent, um,
God bless them.
so be it, right? Exactly.
Mhm.
And so when you say I'm selfish with my time, how, what does that look like? If I'm an agent who is just giving my time away and saying yes to all the things that aren't important to me and saying no to all of my favorite hobbies, my family, um, my self
Mhm.
care, how do
So
I
that's
shift
just it.
that? Hmm?
That's just it. You got to have priorities, right? And my family is clearly number one priority. It's why I do anything, really. It's why we work.
Mhm.
And then there are the other things in my life that they don't require as much time. Chair in the park board, I have responsibilities there, but it doesn't require a whole lot of time. Um, Coaching requires a lot of time,
Right.
but these are commitments that I have made. And
Mhm.
so as business or communications from, you know, my little business world come into me, I'm scheduling them around the other priorities I have.
Right.
And, it's very rare that there's a real estate emergency that needs to be acted upon right now. And we did have a market right in I'd say from summer of 2020 through the summer of 2022, where you really did have to react to new listings quickly to get your buyers in there. But that's kind of past. I mean, there are some homes, that come on the market that are priced right and are beautifully done, and there's going to be a competition and they're going to sell quickly. But by and large, you don't have to react so quickly to new listings like we did for
Right.
the past couple of years. And
Right. That's
so
true.
it allows you to be more flexible with your time. And it's just simply, I have my priorities, the things that I've committed to outside of real estate, and real estate is going to get scheduled around it. One thing that I tell people a lot, that it is a challenge and it continues to be a challenge for me. And it's something I'm always working on, something I'm always considering, is kind of how to make real estate sales and my life blend together seamlessly and move in and out of each one into the other all
Right.
day, pretty much every day. And of course, there are days where, it's Friday afternoon, I've got nothing on the schedule and I'm mailing it in. I'm done working and I'm just going to be with my family.
Mhm.
But then there are weekends like the past one I had where I worked most of the weekend.
Right.
And the family understands it now. They get it, because with the work life balance I have, my kids, my wife, they get more of dad and husband than I think most families probably get of dad and husband.
Yeah. And you know what? One of the things that we have learned over the years, because again, it's an evolution, it's a journey. Like you said, you're learning how to intertwine your life and your real estate so it all becomes one, which it is. This is not a 9 to 5 job. It's 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 a lifestyle career.
Mhm,
And you said I spent last weekend, or say you spent last weekend just slammed with real estate.
mhm.
I'm assuming based on how you're time blocking and how you're balancing your family, you might have been over here, but I didn't spend time with my family and they need me. So I'm going to have to schedule a little bit of extra time during the week to put a little more focus on my wife and my kids, or maybe do something special with them and do one-on-one time so that they don't feel like they've lost me, right?
Oh,
It's
for
kind of like
sure.
a counterbalancing.
Yeah, I mean, for every weekend that I'm slammed with work, there's a weekend that I'm slammed with soccer, right?
Yeah.
And family stuff. So
Mhm.
I think there is a very good balance. It's
Yeah.
just, it's like I said, and you just said it too, Julie. If you're a full-time real estate agent, then you are a real estate agent full time, like every day, all day long. So when I'm chairing a park board meeting, or when I'm coaching, or when I'm doing anything, I'm still a real estate agent and I'm still representing my business, myself, the brokerage, all those things while I'm doing that.
Yeah.
It never ends. And the people who I interact with while coaching, of course, they all know I'm a real estate agent. I wouldn't be doing my job if they didn't know, right?
That's right.
So they get to see me interact with the community and care and give love to my community and those things. And they know I'm a real estate agent. So while I'm coaching, I'm still working as a real estate agent. That's
That's right.
how I feel about
That's right. And if you're always kind of coming from contribution, giving back, um, building into other people, showing, highest integrity in everything that you're doing, that is how you get people to say, hey, I want to work with him when I'm dealing with the largest transaction of my life. I trust him. He's a trustworthy person. I really like him. And those are the things that we have to be aware of is in everything that we do. And you are absolutely lead generating, which everyone says, oh, I hate lead generating. I hate prospecting because of the connotation that it has. But you're doing that while you're serving in the community, while you're coaching. You're basically just making friends and building relationships and giving back. And hopefully, when someone needs your help, your expertise is in real estate, and hopefully you'll be able to help them. And really, that's all it is. And when you really look at it that way, it makes this career the most fun, the most rewarding,
it. Mhm.
and the most lucrative career you can have. It's
I
just
love
a
it.
mindset, right?
I love it. I do. It it
Mhm.
it makes it easier if you genuinely love people, right? And
Yeah.
you want to see people succeed and
Yeah.
you want to help people reach their goals and you want to see them step up and level up in their life. That's an amazing part about this too, especially because it's such a localized
Yeah.
profession, right? And you meet
Mhm.
all these people from all these backgrounds, and when you can help
Mhm.
and make these connections within your community and watch these people get together and then work together to level up in their own
Right.
paths, it's an awesome thing. And it's probably my
Mhm.
favorite thing about this.
Mhm.
And even though that doesn't necessarily equal a payday today, it's going to equal a payday, right? You connect people and help them get ahead in their lives. You've just created advocates for you and your business, and they're going to send people your way. it's
Yeah.
a it's a wonderful, magical, organic way to do business.
It is. And and I think that's why when you finally get to that point where you're comfortable in, the how to's of the job, you understand the industry really well, which does take some time, right? I mean, it doesn't happen
Sure.
overnight.
Still learning.
And yeah, again, you'll never understand everything you need to know. We're always stumped, but you kind of get a good feeling. Like you said, I know how long it takes me to go on a listing appointment. I know how long it takes me usually to show 3 to 5 homes. I know how long it takes me to write an offer. So you're kind of getting into that understanding of your role at a high level. And then you're understanding your priorities. So again, I think that's a lot of people don't understand what their priorities are. You get the lines can be very blurred
Mhm.
between all of the things in your life. And so that's first and foremost is understanding what your priorities are. And then what I heard you say, and I really want to point this out, is that because you are so crystal clear, and clarity is power, but you're crystal clear on your priorities, you're crystal clear on where your business comes from. you're clear on what your schedule looks like every week. Some weeks it's heavy on the family and community. Some weeks it's heavy on appointments and real estate, but you're clear on a weekly basis. You don't feel any type of like guilt or anxiety if you're like, oh, it's Friday, I get to take off, because you've done what you need to do, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I know. So my mentor in sales used to say to me, if you get up every day and you do the right thing by the job, the sales will come. And I feel like I get up and do the right thing by the job every day. So if there's a day where I just want to, we're going to call this a half day and I'm going to relax, no, I never feel guilt, Julie.
yeah, because you know you've done what you need to do. And I
Right.
see that a lot in this business. A little bit of just not being clear. I mean, that's the first part, is what is most important to you, not having that clarity, and then not knowing how to truly block your schedule out at a high level, and then kind of procrastinating doing the important things because you're not looking at them the way that you look at them. It's just, what kind of advice would you give an agent who might be struggling a bit right now to do what they need to do to get their business going? Because I will say that it has been a little bit of a struggle the last few months for some agents, because the business isn't falling out of the sky like it was the last couple of years. I mean, people aren't just banging on your door saying, please help me. So what advice will you give to agents who might be struggling a little bit, who aren't clear, and who need a little bit of a mindset shift?
The advice that I give to every agent that asks me for this specific sort of advice, it's always the same. Julie, you and I have already touched on it, and it is look into your database. First of all, if you don't have one, then sit down over the next half hour and write it down. These are people in your life that know, like, and trust you, right? And continuously add to it. But you need to, first of all, have a database. So the first step is, if you don't have one, build it today, right now. You know, as soon as this call's over, start building it.
Mhm.
If you have one, look at it and make sure it's enough. Make sure you have enough people in there, the right kind of people in there. If you stop at just your closest friends and family, that's not enough. You know way more people than that. And then third, if you're really struggling at this point, then you probably haven't gone into that database and reached out and touched those people
That's
and
right.
asked them how things are going for them. What are their goals? What are they getting into? And then ultimately, do they know anybody who might be looking to buy or sell a home and could use your services? Start working that database and work it with consistency and be a resource to them. You know, I think what helps, I know you and Ed have this going on. You guys aren't just real estate salespeople. You're not just selling a house. You know attorneys, you know financial planners, you have all these professionals within your network that you can help people whenever they're on one of these, coming against one of these big huge life decisions. You probably get these calls, hey, you know, we want to talk to somebody but we don't know who to talk to. We already trust you, Julie. Who would
Right.
you recommend? Do you have somebody? And then you
Mhm.
can pass them along, you know. So become a resource to that database and start
Right.
working it, and start looking for referrals through it.
Yeah.
That's where I would say begin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All day long. And what about the mindset? How can, you've got a really healthy mindset around your career and your real estate business. How could you help someone get to that mindset of, the balance and the work-life balance?
So the first part of answering this question goes back to something you already said, and it's clarity. You
Mhm.
know, understanding what your priorities are. What are you doing this for? What are you working for?
That's right.
And that should be your motivator every single day to get up and make the calls, to time block, to do all these things that we're discussing.
Mhm.
What are your priorities, and how does real estate sales help you fulfill those priorities and your goals? That should be all the motivation you need to keep going. I think another important thing is, what I see with a lot of agents who have less experience, not just in real estate, but in sales in general, I guess, is they they beat themselves up if it doesn't work out, and they get very discouraged. And emotions are temporary. Like, good and bad things that happen are temporary. So don't allow yourself to get too high on the good things, and certainly don't allow yourself to get too low on the bad things. You have to understand that they're both coming. This is just life in general. Good and bad will come, and neither of those extremes define who you are or how you should go about your business. They're all temporary. So if it's a fantastic thing that's come along and you feel great, know and know better, this is temporary, and it's going to pass, and things are going to go back to an even keel, and I have to keep working. And it's the same if it's bad. If you get bad news or rejection or whatever it might be, it's temporary, and it's going to go away and return to an even keel, and just keep working. And along those lessons, or along those lines, is try not to take it too personal. I mean, I know it is very, very personal, because every prospect represents a potential commission, which is how we get paid, which is obviously very personal, but it is business also. And people are going to make decisions that you don't like. Clients, prospect, they're going to make decisions that you don't like, but they're not doing it because they're considering what we may or may not like. They're doing it based on their own emotions and their own feelings, and you have to roll with those things. So trying to stay somewhat stoic and even tempered about everything that goes on will help quite a bit.
That is amazing advice. Don't be attached to the outcome. I mean, and that's a lesson and a journey that we're all on. And I know when I was brand new in real estate, I was riding a roller coaster, and I would say to Ed, I'm like, why are you so calm? Like, this is crazy. Do you believe what happened? Or why don't you celebrate? We just sold this huge house. Yay. And I was like either way up here or way down here. And he was just kind of, and he said, I've just learned that you can't do that. And I would struggle with the fact, but it's so personal, but I care. I really care about these clients, and look what they've done, or look at what has happened, or look how great this is. And now I'm about 15 years in, and I'm finally getting to a point where it's like, okay, it doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change my life. It doesn't change my worth and who I am in God. Like, none of that changes. So keeping that even keel, you can celebrate, but don't get so high, don't get so low. That is the best advice that you could give. And it's not easy.
It's not. It takes, it takes a little bit of pain, right?
And
That's
practice.
I learn I seem to learn best when it hurts. And then I can sit back and look at it and go, why does it hurt so bad? Oh, maybe that's the reason. Okay, settle down. Let's incorporate that lesson. Let's carry it forward. And the lessons become less and less painful over time.
I love that. And that is all, one of the things that we like to say is that your business grows to the extent that you do. And when you're working on yourself personally, when you're looking inward and saying, why did that activate me so much? And just being curious about, why did that burn when that person said that? Or what is the reason? And then going back to, like you said, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with them, their perceptions, their experience in this world, the things that they're going through. I think when you can look at that from that perspective and shift your mindset and practice that and practice staying even, that's where peace comes from, because this industry, from the outside looking in, it doesn't look so peaceful, but we can find peace and we can find joy, and it can be pretty amazing. And it's a practice. It's a process, right?
It's a discipline, no doubt.
It's a discipline. Yes. And I know that you're growing yourself personally, all of your training in the jiu-jitsu. And I know you have a strong faith in God and your spiritual, work that you do on yourself. It really is probably the key to how you're transferring that to your business, because it all is one, right?
There's no doubt about it. It all is one. That's a great way to put it, Julie. It's all sort of symbiotic. Every bit of it affects every other bit of it, and yeah, trying to make sure that every piece is healthy and
Mhm.
functioning as well as possible, and taken care of. And that is, like you said, it's mind, it's body, it's soul,
Yep.
it's the business, the personal life.
Mhm.
It is a challenge, but again, prioritizing and
Yes.
giving every priority its appropriate due
Mm.
has really been a key to
Wow.
finding a wonderful career here.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. Thanks for your time. I know you're
My
selfish
pleasure.
with your time, so I feel very honored that I got to spend this time with you. And I'm sure a lot of people will find a lot of good advice from it. So I hope you have an awesome day and thanks a
You
bunch.
too. Well,
All
you
right.
and Ed are awesome. So you guys keep doing what you do. It's a beautiful thing, and thank you.
All right. We'll see you. Thanks, Jonathan.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.